We need to make sure that we nail AI, and we really have a fixed window over the next few years to make sure that America stays ahead.
Thank you so much for being with us today. This is such a pleasure. I know you've had quite a long day. And it's great to chat with you because you've quickly become not just a leader in AI, but particularly AI in policy. And I'm really curious to hear from you because on the one hand, you're still building scale. You said you want it to be a $100 billion company, and yet you're very much prioritizing these conversations about policy and meeting with leaders in government. What do you think that urgency is that's driving you? Why has this become such a priority for you?
We're at a really pivotal moment for the technology. And in particular, we're at a pivotal moment for American leadership in AI. So, especially earlier this year with the DeepSeek models coming out of China, I'm seeing personally that AI is extremely competitive between the United States and the Chinese Communist Party, and we need to make sure we stay ahead. That's really the core of both the hearing today as well as what I've been talking to a lot of policymakers about. And this stems from my personal belief that AI is going to be critical to the next era of national security, critical to our economy, critical to our industry, and critical to the workforce. And so on all four of those counts, we need to make sure that we nail AI, and we really have a fixed window over the next few years to make sure that America stays ahead.
Yeah, one of the things you said that's very counter to what a lot of people say is that you think we should prioritize leadership more than safety. Why do you feel that way, and why do you think that actually putting safety first could potentially endanger us?
One of the things that I've gone back and read through are how does the Chinese Communist Party talk about AI? And going back to 2017, 2018, they enacted a kind of a whole of government approach to leading an AI, sort of an AI master plan, if you will. And recently they announced an AI Plus initiative, which is sort of the sort of fresh coat of paint on that. And what they talk about is they want to be the leader in AI by the year 2030, and they have an approach that integrates their economy, their government, and every part of the Chinese society to ensure that they're able to come out ahead. If you look at AI performance today, we always like to break down AI into its three core elements: compute, algorithms, and data. On compute, America is still ahead. This is an area that is, NVIDIA chips are the pride and joy of America, and it's incredible that that's an American technology. If you look on algorithms, we're now basically neck and neck. DeepSeek basically proved that they are just right on par with us on algorithms. And if you look at data, China is actually way ahead of the United States. And part of this is because they instituted all these programs to win on data over the past decade, starting with when they put together their global AI surveillance systems throughout the country. So that was actually one of the key focuses that we had that I spoke about in the hearing, which is that the United States needs to have a strategy for data dominance, and we need to make sure that we have a approach both in the public sector and the private sector to ensure that we win on data.
Yeah, when it's kind of interesting, it's sort of that age-old thing of China's an authoritarian regime, so in some ways they have more scale and speed than we do, but you're obviously pushing for a lot more private partnerships as well. Would love to hear your take on that and how you think private partners can support, but also what was the feedback? You proposed a lot of new ideas today. Explain a bit more about those and what the response has been.
Yeah, there were probably 4 key points I made in the hearing earlier today with the House Energy and Commerce Committee. So first is data dominance. As we were talking about, we need to ensure that the United States can lead on data, and part of that is establishing what I called a national AI data reserve. So how do we enable all of our government data and as much data as possible to actually serve as a sort of test bed and innovation bed for further AI applications within the government and for the entire country. The third proposal,
And does China have that? Do they have an AI data reserve? Just to flesh that out.
They have, we believe in a sort of their version of classified. In classified settings, they have something that looks very similar to this. They pool the country's data, both private and public. I'm not proposing that, but they pool private and public data all together to ensure that their AI models come out on top.
Okay.
And it's honestly, it's been a multi-year strategy for them, and they are, on this front, they are light years ahead of us on data. So that's data dominance. The second key was actually was agentic government, making the United States an agentic government. And this is becoming a more common word, but to me, an agentic government means that we're able to use AI and AI agents to properly make the government dramatically more efficient, more effective. Utilize AI agents to start streamline a lot of the processes within the federal government. So this could be, accelerating energy permitting processes. That was a big topic in the hearing. Or it could be, utilizing AI for accelerating veterans, medical payouts, or a wide variety of different use cases.
Have you been talking with Doge? This kind of feels like it's up their alley.
Definitely, AI can be used for government efficiency. That's for sure a very exciting use case for the technology. But right now, we're more focused on the American leadership point. And then the third proposal was really around enabling the American workforce for AI. How do we ensure that the American worker is going to be equipped as the AI workforce of the future? And there's a bunch of points there. And then the last one is we just need to ensure that American standards, AI standards, are exported globally. So how do we make sure that the entire world, or as much of the world as possible, is building off of American AI standards that are built off of our values and our principles?
And you've had conversations with a lot of foreign governments. You're quite the man about town, or the globe, as it were. Is that something that you feel like people are buying into? Is that something that you've already had conversations with other world leaders about?
We've spoken to many world leaders, and there's definitely a desire to figure out how do we have as much as possible cooperation around AI standards. That is definitely top of mind for many countries, and frankly for many countries who may not have the R&D workforces or the same level of investment that we have in the United States. I think a lot of them also want to ensure that, frankly, that they can leverage some of the incredible advancements that are coming out of America and leverage the incredible technology that's being currently built in America. So there's definitely high openness, and there's actually some already kind of international coalitions that we can utilize as the United States. So there's the global network of AI safety institutes. Many countries have started AI safety institutes, from Japan, Korea, India, France, the UK, many countries. And we have the opportunity with the global network to really establish, standards and codify our principles into something that we can export to all those countries.
And how has it been for you dealing with this administration more recently as opposed to the previous administration?
This administration has been super focused on AI. They're definitely thinking a lot about how they ensure American AI leadership. And then even in the hearing today, one of the exciting things was that American AI leadership is very much a bipartisan issue. Both sides of the aisle were very intently focused on how do we make sure that the United States comes out ahead on AI. What can they do to help? There's a lot of Congress members seeking our advice and our recommendations based on what we see in industry, and that was really heartening to see.
I mean, what do you think is going to happen in the next year? Obviously, these are very nascent ideas that you literally just proposed today, but was there follow-up? Do you think that we are going to potentially see that data reserve in the next year? What do you think's going to happen? I
certainly hope so. I mean, I think we have a very important window for the next, let's call it 1 to 2 years in DC specifically, because one of the things that we talked about in the hearing was that we need to try to get a federal regulatory framework around AI before all of the states pass their own regulations. So we need to ensure that we get federal preemption. Otherwise, for an AI company like us, or all American AI companies, we're going to have to contend with 50 different AI regulations or regulatory frameworks in 50 different states, which becomes an incredible burden and will really impact innovation.
What keeps you up at night? What is the worst case scenario if in the next couple of years things kind of fall by the wayside? Is it going to be an extinction event like some people have warned?
I think before we get to those kinds of scenarios of a human extinction event, there's very real things that I'm concerned about. One of the things I'm really concerned about is if China races ahead on AI, and let's say they start applying AI to their military and their cyber operations more effectively than we do in the United States, then we're in for a really bad time. They'll be able to hack into all of our systems. They'll be able to hack into our energy grid and shut it off. They'll be able to take all of our information. And who knows, if they really build an incredible advantage in AI, especially AI when it comes to military or defense technologies, they may use that to start with them or other authoritarian countries, start conquering nearby countries. We really don't know what's going to happen if they end up in a situation where they feel very powerful because of their AI capabilities.
Yeah, and it's very interesting too, because your parents are Chinese and you grew up in Los Alamos, and so you've sort of had this deep understanding of security, technology, and what all that means. So you have a very interesting perspective.
It was really, it was very much so drilled into my childhood that American leadership in science and technology is the core of why we as a country are able to maintain our national security, why we're able to maintain leadership. It's so critical to ultimately how America stays ahead in the global order.
And I'm curious too, just to get thoughts on scale and AI generally. You're so plugged in with everything that's happening. I know Sam Altman lived with you for a time. What are the kinds of things that you're talking about with your peers? Is it about China, or what is it that you guys are really laser focused on right now?
There's a number of topics that are very much so top of mind. I think some of them, which really have bubbled up to the top of the conversation, are around chips and energy and data centers, and I think there's obviously very large industrial projects that are starting up to try to ensure that we can
Greenland?
that we can continue the pace of innovation on AI. But some of the other topics that really come up are, what are the national security implications of the technology? I think that's becoming a bigger and bigger topic, even within the AI industry. And I think there's versus 5-6 years ago, when Scale started working with the Department of Defense, it was very controversial. We were a bit of a pariah in the AI industry because all the other AI companies were going the other way. They were moving away from working on defense or national security applications. And now I'm seeing that pendulum swing back, where even in Silicon Valley, there's a clear recognition and moral imperative that we need to be utilizing AI to support our warfighters, support our national security mission.
Oh, that's really interesting. And you think it's because there's a recognition that China is such an existential threat?
I think it's a few things. I think first we have multiple active wars happening in the world at this point that are very top of mind for many Americans. So I think the geopolitical situation has dramatically worsened, and I think there's sort of if you play it out, what happens if China gets ahead and the most brilliant people in America don't work on national security problems? What does that world look like? You play the tape forward, I think people are worried about it.
You've suggested there could be AGI, I think, in 4 years? That seems really rapid.
The pace of innovation has not been stopping. And I think we see this with all of these incredible models that are coming out in the United States, but progress on models, progress on advanced capabilities, even progress in very consumer applications like the sort of Studio Ghiblification of the world.
I did not understand that bad at all.
The technology is moving very, very quickly, and I think policymakers really need to focus on, not only where the technology is today, but they need to skate where the puck is going. Figure out by the time they get any sort of regulatory action done, which could be in 6 months, 12 months, whatever that window is, they need to go towards where the technology is going.
Okay, but you're confident that maybe that is happening now. Do you see yourself sort of leading that, if you will? I'm
confident that there's a lot of interest for sure, and certainly many members, I think, see what we see, which is there's a limited window, and you can even see in the hearing, many members, I think, were even in listening to the comments, realizing just how critical this technology was. One of the points that was repeated a few times in the hearing was that AI is actually even now underhyped. There's still not enough recognition.
How so?
Well, the jumps that we're going to see as AI is applied to more and more heavy-duty applications, I think, are going to be really surprising. One of the big shifts is, we're going from chatbots like ChatGPT towards reasoning engines and AI scientists and AI mathematicians and these systems that are just dramatically more powerful. On that note, though, because you have a very optimistic view of how AI will integrate in our lives,
you're not somebody who's talked about it replacing humans. It seems like the picture you paint and even the way you run your organization now is it works alongside humans. So what are the jobs of the future that involve us working with AI, and what does that look like for the average American?
Yeah, our view at Scale has always been that AI is for humanity and humans are an integral part of AI working for us as a technology. Like, we need to ensure that humans are always at the center. And so a big part of this for us is ensuring that we're able to build opportunities, particularly economic opportunities in AI for people, and that work opportunities in AI and jobs in AI become the jobs of the future. So to speak.
What does that look like exactly for the average person?
Yeah, so I think there's a few versions of this. So one is simply that, what we see today already, which is that on Scale we operate one of the largest networks of human experts who help power these AI systems. And what that really looks like is experts all around the world, especially in the US, who are there to provide their expertise and provide insight as to, what are areas where they know that the models are much worse than them, and how do they help sort of teach them and improve their skills, improve the skills of the model. And it's sort of a, almost literally like a teaching job, teaching the AI.
Yeah, it's like a baby.
Yeah, exactly. And these jobs are growing like crazy. Last year we had Americans in over 9,000 U.S. towns and cities work with Scale on top of our platform. Over 20% of those towns and cities were in rural America. So these are work opportunities that are going towards Americans and going towards people who otherwise may not have exciting opportunities in a growing economic space like AI. And I think this is just going to keep accelerating over the next few years to be a greater and greater part of the economy. And I think jobs in AI are going to grow faster than anywhere else. One of the other things that I definitely believe, and I've been talking about, is that I think that we as humans are kind of going to become the managers of AI agents. And it's almost like everybody in the world is going to get to be promoted to be a manager. I don't know if people are excited about that or not excited about that, but I do think that we're going to be able to utilize these AI agents to do more and have greater ambition on what each individual human is able to accomplish.
And it's decentralized too, so it's an interesting point you make about people in rural areas can participate. It doesn't have to just be in big cities like New York or San Francisco.
Yeah, exactly. And that's one of I think the really exciting things is that because AI is a digital technology, because all Americans are going to have access to the technology, it really democratizes and really spreads out the opportunity across the entire US.
Is that what you would say excites you most, or is there anything else that really excites you today about where you see AI going?
I mean, I think the really exciting things are just the degree to which it's going to enable people to accomplish way more. I mean, some of the things that I find like at my core really exciting are how AI will be used in science and how it will be used to sort of accelerate scientific discoveries. I think we're at the point where AI will meaningfully accelerate humanity in curing cancer, which is just an incredible thing. I mean, if we can make real progress at curing various forms of cancer, that's just an incredibly mind-blowing pursuit. Or helping us, discover new materials, or helping us, identify better treatments for certain diseases. Like the possibilities are really endless. That's the definition of progress and helping humans live better lives.
Anything else you can share about today? Did you go to the White House? Did you talk with the president? Did you talk about specific bills or executive orders that you're expecting to see? It
was definitely a hectic day overall, but we spent time at the Capitol, focused on it was a very long hearing that took up a big chunk of the day, and then we had other meetings focused on the core points that we talked about. How do we ensure that America leads in AI, and how do you go one click deeper? Like, what are the specific components? Like we talked about before, data dominance, building an agentic government, empowering the workforce for the future, promoting our technology globally. Like these are the pillars we think of a great strategy.
Interesting, but still a bit more still vague on the specifics at this point. Maybe you're fleshing it out with the lawmakers.
Even for the House Energy and Commerce Committee, this was the first full committee hearing they've had for this Congress. So it's a great opportunity to really hit the ground running.
And it sounds like they understand the urgency of something like this as well.
Yeah, there's a very clear recognition of the urgency.
And can you speak to scale? What's next for you? Obviously, you're busy working on issues like these, but what's the future of the company?
One of the things that we're very excited about that we recently announced is some of our work with the DoD. And we recently announced a program called ThunderForge that we're working on actively with the Department of Defense to utilize AI and AI agents for military planning and wargaming. It's the flagship DoD program for the use of AI for wargaming and planning. And this really goes towards what we've kind of mentioned before around, how do you get to a more AI-enabled and agentic government, starting with national security, starting with defense, and we're very, very excited about that. I think there's so much more work to be done there. I think that's going to be something we work on for decades to come. It's not just like a next year or next few year things.
Because that's the future of warfare, it seems.
Yes, we believe that full-heartedly. And then we're seeing a lot of exciting work with many great American enterprises. We're seeing now that American enterprises, more so than even enterprises globally, are really embracing AI and want to figure out how they can utilize it to operate more efficiently, be more competitive, and deliver a greater result to their customers. And so, more to come on that, hopefully.
And any names, anyone you can mention in particular?
I don't want to misspeak, but we have a lot of exciting announcements upcoming with some large enterprises that we're excited about.
That's a wrap on today's episode of NYNext. We hope you enjoyed the conversation. If you liked what you heard, don't forget to hit that subscribe button on your favorite podcast platform so you never miss an episode. You can also catch us on the New York Post YouTube channel. And of course, be sure to follow us on social media for the latest updates and behind-the-scenes content. We're on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. Join the conversation and let us know what you think.